You're listening to episode 725 of VerySpatial Podcast, October 29th, 2023. Hello and welcome to our VerySpatial Podcast. I'm Jesse.
I'm Sue.
I'm Barb.
And this is Frank.
And this week, it is time to once again speak of the awareness week, the day, the days, the awesomeness that is geography. Every November in the third week, the week before Thanksgiving, if you're in the United States.
The week before Thanksgiving, if you're not in the United States, you just don't know it.
It's just, well, there's different Thanksgivings in different places, so that's a whole other, so making sure it's specific to the U.S. And this began with National Geographic Society, and of course now it is broadened through AGS and AAG and us and anybody else who can and will speak of the awareness of geography.
Yes. In some years and places, I think there are proclamations made and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. To celebrate.
So, thoughts on this year's Geography Awareness Week?
I know Barbara has many.
Yes, that's what I was waiting to start talking.
Oh, you're waiting? Okay, I was just enjoying your introduction. So yeah, I have many thoughts just because I'm in, I enjoy it, and I enjoy it every year. And then each year I enjoy it more and I progress. So I've progressed from being a geo mentor to a geo advocate, and then now been invited to be a part of geography awareness as a core geography partner, the first higher education partner, which is a really great honor, but also lets me get to see more about how we talk about geography awareness and more about what we're planning for the future. And that is what Jesse was saying, which is, not just one day or 1 week, but how do we as geographers bring this into geography awareness all year long? So that's why, this year's theme is the power of place, which is, I think, should resonate with all of us as co-hosts, because we've heard it all from Dr. Trevor Harris, our advisor, holding my hand over my heart for that. It's that feeling you get inside. And it's something that's personal to everyone. Everyone worldwide can understand the power of place, which is a great way to start talking about geography awareness.
And to contextualize, that's the AAG's theme, because the
AAG's
National
theme,
Geographic
yes.
Society stopped offering themes. And so after a couple of years without a theme from Nat Geo, AAG began to offer one up.
So I think themes are important. They help you to create continuity between everyone that's doing geography awareness worldwide, so that we all sort of can talk from the same platform a little bit, but with a lot of ability to make it personalized to what we're doing and to our community, our topics, and our region.
Yeah, I think that one of the benefits of having a theme is to give those of us who do geography, particularly if you're doing the professional realm, if you're doing it as like kind of your day job as opposed to a research agenda, it allows you to think a little more broadly about what it is that you do. It's very easy to get kind of in the day-to-day details of this, and I got to do that, and then this is what I could do, and this other project I can complete, and all that stuff like that. And to just think about geography in terms of what you need to do in your professional life. The great thing about having a theme is that it gives you permission to think more holistically, to think outside that little box, which I think is great.
Yeah, and this year's theme, right, I really like, because this one everybody can see a piece of that. Some of the other big themes that we've had, are important, as you say. They kind of bring to the fore a particular part of geography, but place really is, it's just part of who we are, right? And even if we don't overtly know it or think it, when we are experiencing reactions to places, like you just mentioned, Barb, like just, kind of feeling it. But I do think that this is one of my favorites, power of place, just because that's in so much of what I do. But also in that entree, it's like, well, if you're thinking at, like your hometown, remember, we've talked about it over the years at different times. If you remember how it smells in the fall. So this one really resonates with me this year, right? Because just this was my favorite time, is still my favorite time of year. But when I was growing up in a slightly different climate.
Where there was a fall.
yeah, where there was a fall is always my favorite time of year, right? Because I could smell, of course, because it was my birthday month and all that kind of stuff too. But just the smell of the change. And if you don't realize, changing leaves and stuff do have a smell, as do the harvest and all kinds of stuff. So that one small aspect of place, right, has stayed with me. And just recently traveling back up into that neck of the woods, if you will, just walking outside and just how you could tell. Right. So even in a place that's not familiar to me, it still had connections with places that I did, hold dear, as it were.
Yeah. My biggest problem with this year's theme is that we've harped on this for years, that Geography Awareness Week, and we'll probably end this podcast with it, is not just a week. It's the idea is to continue this the other 51 weeks and then in the future from there. But one of the challenges, I think, of Geography Awareness Week is that it tends to suggest to people that they need to focus on that week, right? And place is arguably one of my favorite. Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably my favorite aspect of geography, and to constrain it to 7 days just seems a crime. We shouldn't do that, but I feel like people would tend to do that because there's so much depth in place that I define place very simply, which is experience space. So we use spatial analysis every day to understand the space around us, which is important, but equally as important is our connection to that, which is that experience you have with that space and in that space and between different spaces. And to me, that's everything that's interesting about geography is contained in that's moves beyond just simple math.
And one of the things that I like about the theme too, the power of place, and what Sue and Frank are saying, is I found that it is also universal across disciplines, that when you start talking to people in different disciplines, I've been talking to my interns in community health, there are, thoughts about place. So as I was reminded when I was joining with the committee, the American Association of Geographers said, remember, geography doesn't always have to have geography in the name. And then I laughed to myself because, one, I love the work that Dr. Kursky does, but I also like the quote he has about, be a nerd, be a geo nerd, be passionate about what you like and let people know. So in my head, I've just started imagining the events that go on throughout the year in our region and just popping up and being like, hey, do you know this is geography? And, that really expands what you can do for geography awareness when you think about yourself as just being someone that's almost a commentator about place for things that are already planned, which makes everyone's life easier when you think about raising geography awareness. Also a Monty Python skit. So geographers just popping out.
So does anyone have any plans for Geography Awareness Week?
I already did one.
Well, I know we already had a Geography Awareness Week event. We had at Fairmont State University, we had Dr. Ken Martis, who's emeritus professor out of WVU, and arguably, I'm going to say the world's foremost expert. He's been on the podcast before, but world's foremost expert in U.S. elections mapping and that sort of thing. He gave a really interesting talk, which is, I hope we get to have him back again next year, whatever the theme may be, because it will obviously be much more timely going into a national election in the United States. But that was a fascinating talk that we got to host and experience. And to some extent, he touched on issues of place, but not necessarily, but it was, being aware of geography. However, beyond what Barbara and I have done, are you guys doing anything for Geography Awareness Week this year?
We are currently chatting about that.
Well, you've already done a GIS Day event.
Yes. So we had our GIS Day event. So as we've noted, often GIS Day, well, not often, but usually GIS Day is the middle of Geography Awareness Week. So that's the Wednesday. And the local event that we participated in was a little bit earlier in the year to accommodate, various schedules and things. So we've already done at least one GIS Day event companion to Geography Awareness Week. So again, geography awareness all year round. So we're looking at what other things we might do on our campus during the actual week.
Yeah, so that brings up GIS Day, right? So GIS Day, as Sue said, is the middle of Geography Awareness Week for fuzzy values of middle and fuzzy values of geography Awareness Week, because a lot of people do have events that are a little bit time shifted for various reasons. I know the West Virginia DOT, for example, often does a GIS day that's a week before, a week after, depending on, like Sue said, schedules. So if you're in the field of GIS, I highly recommend you trying to do something for GIS Day. It's about raising awareness within, to my mind, the community, the greater community, not just the geography or GIS community, but the greater community about GIS, what it can do, what its benefits are, what its capabilities are, and why we want it and we want to keep it around. But it doesn't have to be confined to that Wednesday. You can do it other days. And in fact, GIS Day should be every day. But if you want to celebrate in particular, this is a good season to do it.
And also, I have an activity if anyone needs one and you're like, well, I'm not really sure what to do. If you can show a live stream of a video and you have some popcorn, for the past 2 years, one of the members of the West Virginia Association of Geospatial Professionals, he's given this talk at ERISA and other places. He created GIS in the movies, which goes over, GIS, the influence on him from seeing it in James Bond and other movies up to today. He had parts 1, part 2, but he has now created part 3. And we are going to be showing that on GIS Day. And I'll be posting it up on the link at the university that everyone can have access to, which I don't know how to get the URL to everyone. It's the GeoSavvy LibGuide through Fairmont State University.
Yeah, I mean, we can make it more public than that, certainly. But
actually, I just realized AAG probably will put it up there.
I say it's partnered with AAG, so they'll probably put it on AAG's website. But it's a really interesting, and we say GIS in the movies because it's a catchy title, but he does include TV shows in there. And anytime that you've ever saw, hey, that's GIS on a show or a movie or whatever it is you may watch, he probably has that snippet in there. His goal is to get this actually in the Library of Congress in some form or fashion, because it is an interesting bit of notation. So even if you don't get to catch it this year, he's working with AEG, right? I think to help make this more broader into an official somewhere.
We're learning from people how to do that, because again, a lot of this is use what you have, use the resources of the people you have and their passions. And we were just lucky to find someone who had this passion and was sharing this with our community, and has decided this year to delve deeper into actual geospatial concepts, problems, and challenges. So that idea of not just geography awareness, but starting the deep talks about what we do as professionals and what we deal with in the world, and deep talks about geography.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions you might get that I think about in terms of Geography Awareness Weekend, GIS Day, is what really are we trying to raise awareness for, right? Why do we want people to understand geography better and know that this is geography? And that's because a lot of what we do is about understanding the world around us and solving problems related to that. So the geographic perspective really can encompass tons of things, but it really is knowing our world around us, knowing what people do to impact that world, right? And how we can, address sometimes when those impacts are negative, or how we can understand how struggles to interact with our world, can be overcome. So central to that, right, if we take a look at this year's theme, right, that notion of place is that, experience spaces that we give meaning to, right, those meanings then impact how we see that place. And, it might be if that place is threatened by something, or if that place is drawing people to it, how might those impacts play out? And understanding that can help us, better preserve the place if that's what we're doing, to share it, to live within it, right? All of those things. But that, I think, is important too in something like Geography Awareness Week, is why do we think that you should know more about what geographers do? Why should you be aware that this is geography?
So three different incidents that last week, I got to use the phrase, the statement that Jesse said years ago, and I stole it from him, and I think it's great, is, I don't know, I'm a geographer, not an atlas. I just love that, because people who are I think in every situation, people who are faculty members in other disciplines would ask things that would essentially be geography fact. And I would say that's just not the type of geography we do. And I think that, to my mind, geography of place, the concept of place, is one of the more exciting ones for people to wrap their brain around, to understand that geography is not just about what's the longest river in North America and what's the capital of Estonia and all these sort of facts that are important, but they're not really the core of geography as I understand it. And as most people I know that are geographers understand it. But place, I think, is something they say, oh, I get it. We're going to go almost tangential to what I'm thinking about as geography and start evoking that. We had a really interesting, what was it? Is a panel discussion somewhere? What it was about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and there was a political scientist, an historian, a national security expert, which is one of the degrees we have, and then Barbara and I, and we talked a little bit about that conflict in a historical context, in a glacial context, in a geospatial technology context, and it was very interesting to pull all that stuff together and to see the students go, oh, wait, there's more to this geography thing than the atlas things. And I think that place was a very powerful way for them to grasp into it. So this is in my opinion, this is a great theme this year.
I like the idea of place too, because I think that it also reaches all ages. It's a topic that can be shared. It's not just something that you need to do for K through 12 or for high school. It's really something that can reach across everyone for, like Sue said, to talk about geography in that meaning. And I think that it is a way to connect everyone so that hopefully next year, whatever the theme is, everyone's learned about place, which is a central idea in geography. So they will know more and apply it more with their learning to next year's theme, and then slowly grow up this knowledge of geography within your area or the people you're trying to reach. And a lot of the partners are doing a great job because they are working year round for geography education, geography careers. And this is just a way of bringing in everyone all together.
So let me ask a question. This is just a completely silly question, really, but when you think of Geography Awareness Week, do you think it's the week that kicks off the theme of whatever it may be place this year, or is it the week that caps that thought process, that theme?
Well, I hadn't really thought about it till now.
It's something I've struggled with for years. It's like, wait a minute, are we supposed to start thinking about that theme now? Or are we supposed to have been thinking about it for a year?
I think the key is to remember that Geography Awareness Week is a week. And yeah, you can think of it as your beginning and ending, but at the same time, there's so many other weeks and days throughout the year that we are integral to. You have Earth Science Week in October. You have Earth Day and the now surrounding week around that in April. You have Earth Observation Day. You have, I am going to blank on, most of them. And just in this 1 week, we're talking about Geography Awareness Week. We have GIS Day. We have Geography Day. Sadly, the Geography Day website is currently down, but the Facebook page is still up and running. So hopefully that'll get updated by the time we get to November. But I think it's more of a relay race than it is a long distance race. We've got so many things that we can talk about, and you can bring that theme through all of these. I mean, we can easily talk about how natural hazards and those type of issues tie into place in Earth Science Week. We can talk about how, the idea of sustainable development and specifically sustainability now, as it's being adopted in so many geography departments, is part of that Earth Science Week. So I think of it more as a relay race as opposed to this being the thing that we have to carry throughout the whole year, because there's so many opportunities to say, yeah, geography is awesome, and it's also part of these other things. It's
like the crest of a wave, and there can be multiple waves, right? So planning for your event, Geography Awareness Week, and I'm making a hand motion, then the week itself, and then, just thinking about all the stuff that went on during the week and checking out other people's stuff, that's kind of riding the wave down. And then if you have the multiple events, you could have multiple waves.
Yeah. And, as we talked about in the very early days, one of the great things about Geography Awareness Week is that it's a good way through the fall semester. So, K to 12 education, higher education, it's a good time. But at the same time, it's right when everybody's getting ready to take a break as well. We have Thanksgiving in the United States the next week. We have the holiday season the next month. So we kind of have set ourselves up as this build through the fall, and then just kind of relax afterwards. And, you know, if you've done a conference, if you've organized a conference, it's kind of the same way. You spend so much time building up to this thing. You kind of need that time right after to relax a little bit too.
If nothing else, to think about the next theme.
Yeah.
Right. To sort of reflect on, what do we learn from this one? What do we want to emphasize moving forward? And there's so many. The great thing about geography, there's so many themes to pick from. You could literally pick a different theme every year for 100 years, you know, and the people alive today had nothing to do with the past themes, and they would still be coming with new ideas. So that's the great thing. But the bad thing is that you need that time to go, what do we want to think about and emphasize given today's cultural, political, sociological, environmental climate?
Well, and that's the other thing, right, is that you can come back to the exact same theme 5-10 years later, and it's completely different because society's different, the way we approach things are different. The people that we're talking to about it and who is talking about it has changed in that time. So the people who were learning about it the last time it was a theme, because this was a theme in the Nat Geo days of themes, I don't know, 15 years ago. It's been since we've been doing the podcast. I'm guessing about 15 years ago.
Yeah, I do remember it, yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, it is not a re-embellishment. It's not throwing it out there because it's been done before. It's because it is a different thing. Place has so much tied up in personal experience, and we as people are always changing. You know, mental maps are always changing. Who is here and investing in these things is always changing. And so, yeah, you know, we need that time to come up with new ideas, but new ideas don't always have to be brand new because how we look at them are always changing.
And I think I think Power Place, like examining place at a time post-pandemic, right, is really, I think, interesting for a lot of things. And there's many, many examples. But one of the ones that's come to fore this year as people who are able have begun to travel again. All right, the question of place and over tourism, right, and what it means to experience a place that is different from where you come from, right, which is what we do when we travel and experience new things. But the way in which that is being done now, all right, and the level at which it's being done has raised, and some questions, by the way, these are not new questions, but they seem to be, what's the word I want? Not snowballing, but it just seems to be that it's happening in more places and with a lot more pressure. And so the power place is one thing, right? Because it's a magnet, it draws you. But the question is the impact then of migration and shifting around, but temporary, like movement, the way tourism was. So I think that's an interesting question, both post-pandemic when we're out in the physical world again, much more than we were during those times, and also that question of what happens when all of us want to go and see what someone else has either said or captured visually or somehow tried to pass on about place that makes other people want to go to it, right? And the impacts that can have then on those people going there. And I was just thinking the example of the Swiss town that started putting up fences and stuff so you couldn't get certain scenic views, right, which are about landscape and all that kind of stuff. And then others, restricting the number of people that can go certain places at certain times of day and all that kind of thing. So just one example about how even addressing a topic like power of place is very different now than it was maybe just a few years ago.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, Sue, to think like that, because I think we can all think about that, no matter where you are in the world, we can all have examples of that from where we are, just that, because it seems like you're right. It's accelerating and everyone's traveling everywhere in terms of, competition for tourism, which is one of the biggest industries worldwide now. So what does that mean, in a broader sense?
But similarly right now, as Frank was talking about, we have these other things that are pushing people to move. It's not just this temporary idea of tourism and issues that go along with it. Free paper topic for somebody, carrying capacity and tourism. There you go. But, we have people who are still fleeing from Libya and Syria, forced migration right now, essentially in northern portions of Gaza. We're still seeing people who are fleeing internally displaced or externally displaced in Ukraine. And those are just hot button areas in a very specific portion of the world. And, there's still people who have to move because of natural disasters and this and that. And, it's so
the recent hurricane in Mexico and all that, stuff like that.
We've got, the going from a tropical storm to a Cat 5 in, what was that, last week? In less than 24 hours.
Like it sneezed and suddenly boom.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about, speaking of over tourism, an area that has traditionally been heavily tourist heavy, and so not even part of the topic. But it's just so many questions of movement as part of place, and people who are leaving behind homes and creating new ones. So
Well, what's interesting there is that it is space, place, location, and movement is something that geographers think of, but people outside geography don't often associate with geography as a place where things are happening. But again, to draw it back into relating what's going on in the world to personal geography awareness, that's something that people can talk about within their families and with each other about movement of a family over time and their family histories. Is I found a good way to explore it, to attach it to the bigger things that are going on in the world.
Let's just wrap this up a little bit. Geography Awareness Week, as we start off saying, and it happens every year. It's roughly this time of the year, give or take a couple of days, depending on the calendar. If you're doing some sort of event, please publicize it, get it out there. If you're doing GIS Day, then get that out there too, please, because in particular, I think GIS needs a bigger presence within society as a whole. A lot of things we don't realize is really GIS are helping you on a daily basis. And it's a very powerful set of tools, and people just should be more aware of it. So please let people know more by having these sort of events.
So, of course, beyond advertising locally, you can go over to the aag.org/GeoWeek-2023 website. There's a link there to share your work. And of course, the GIS.org is where you can go to share your GIS Day events. And again, share them there, but also make sure to heavily publicize them locally, because while it's good to know where people are doing these things, it's most important for that local community who is there, unless, of course, you're doing it online, in which case, send us an email. We'll stick it up on a blog post during Geography Awareness Week.
Yeah, and you can find other resources too for ideas, or if you want to incorporate it into a curriculum. If you're an educator, there's lots of sites, National Geographic stuff. I especially like theirs because they've got, what does a geographer look like? They have this page that has different geographers that they highlight. So lots of good stuff if you look there for resources. So
remember, as we've said multiple times, geography is not confined to just 1 week. So celebrate geography, celebrate GIS every day, but give it a little extra thought this week.
Do we actually give the dates? I mean, we said the week before Thanksgiving. Should we give the dates? And this year, those dates for the week are November 13th through the 17th.
Day of Geography is the Monday, so the 13th, and GIS Day is the 15th, right there in the middle of the week. Of course, if you have a Geography Week, GIS Day, Day of Geography event, and want us to share it on the podcast before the date, in fact, we'll probably just put it on our Mapstodon link in a blog post. Send us an email to podcast@veryspatial.com.
If you'd like to reach us individually, I can be reached at sue@veryspatial.com.
I'm Barb at veryspatial.com.
And you can reach me at Frank at veryspatial.com.
I'm available at Jesse at veryspatial.com. And of course, if you'd like to find all of our contact information, head over to veryspatial.com/contact.
As always,
we're the folks from VerySpatial.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you in a couple weeks.